Now, to round out the final part of our WCC previews, last but not least, the Portland Pilots. And with Portland, this is a team that, like we talk about consistency, and I was looking through the tenure of Shante Leggins, who is now in his 5th season with the Pilots. There actually has been consistency. From the first year was 6th place, and then each of the last 3 seasons they have been the 8th place team, regardless of how many teams have been in the league. They have been slotted at that 8th spot. And last year, toward the end of the year, they started to play really well. Were getting a little bit healthier. They started to kind of put it together. They won 5 of the last 7 before the WCC tournament. The Pilots have unfortunately been on this kind of waiver early on. It doesn't look good. It has looked ugly at times in the non-conference, although like they should have beaten Oregon last year. It's like, but thinking about, this Portland team also lost a ton in the offseason. I feel like it feels like it's every year. It's like Portland lost a ton of guys. And it's true again this year. Just looking at the names, Delano, Doble, Rapp, Jones, Dangan, Mosic, McKinnon, every year these Pilots have had to just do full reset.
When does it end? And that's really the biggest doom and gloom point with Portland. Like right now, you can only reset to the well and find diamonds in the rough so many times. And I think that's the biggest point of struggle that we have with this roster. It's just like, I understand that they bring in the highest scoring talent off St. Francis and Riley Parker, but it's where else is the scoring going to come from? Where's the defense going to come from? I don't know that I don't even have the armchair solutions for Shante Leggins on paper right now, because it just doesn't seem like there's a viable path for Portland to even be in the tier of USD and Pacific this year. I think that's like the biggest struggle point, because you could look at Pepperdine's run that they went on last year in the conference tournament and kind of see itself, how it formed and all that. I think this year, I'm trying to envision something good for the Pilots, and I'm just having a really tough time in doing so. Maybe you can talk me off this ledge.
I'm looking at some of the other transfers. You bring up Riley Parker, 13 points per game at St. Francis. That's probably the biggest get that they were able to bring in. Nearly 40% shooter from 3. So they did address some of the 3-point shooting that they were going to be missing. They do bring a couple teammates from Trinity Valley College, Cameron Williams and Garrett Knuckles, both 10 points per game scorers. Cameron Williams also averaging 5 rebounds a game. You do get a little bit of that. James O'Donnell, who transferred from USF to Portland, is someone who, honestly, I'm a little surprised that he made that jump going from the Dons to the Pilots, but that's someone I think who has a lot of upside down low, the 6'10 forward. He's going to give you a lot. I think he's going to give you a lot of good, solid minutes. But to your point, I keep looking up and down this roster, and it's hard to find the points. Jay Alvarez coming over from Ryder, a 10-point per game score, but I'm like, all right, I have 10 point, 10 point, 10 point, 10 point, 10 point. I won ball. I just don't. I'm having a harder time this year with this Portland team. You know what? I keep looking at this team, and it's reminding me a lot of where San Diego was a year ago, when they were gutted for the second straight year. And to your point, sometimes there's a break, and it's a breaking point. You just can't recover fast enough to be able to add in all the pieces that you may have wanted. And that's where San Diego was a year ago. When you think about, you lose Kevin Patton Jr., you lose some of their key players, really all their key players from 2 seasons ago. And last year they just felt gutted. KJ Bradley was really the he and maybe Santiago Truitt were the 2 bright spots last year for San Diego. And we know how that ended. They ended up finishing in last. They were a complete shell of what they were in year one with Steve Lavin. But it did finally come around. Of course, that's because NIL, this facilities, whatnot, as we got to talk with Coach Lavin about that. That feels like that's where Portland needs to get better. And like, I don't know if there's a part of this season where that can get better with the pieces they have, the talent they have. I mean, they do bring back Micah Baloo, who I did really like his scrappiness and the way he was able to play. They do bring back Jermaine Balasager Webb, who shot 64% last season. But I on the everyday, when I think about this team, this one's a hard pill to swallow because these pilots are like, even I try to be as optimistic as I can about these teams. This is the first time I'm like, when I stare at a team like this one's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement, and I think the good clarification to say is like, there's only so much Shante Liggins can do. We haven't had the chance to talk with him about like what the I think the trial center starting to show its age a little bit relative to the rest of the WCC. We haven't really picked his brain on like what the NIL standing is for the pilots, and obviously you're in a basketball city. Portland is no slouch when it comes to basketball spirit, basketball identity, and kind of like the wherewithal that sport can take within that town. So it's not like they're in the doldrums or out in the middle of remote nowhere. For me, it's such a big struggle to convince myself that things are going to go well for this Pilots team. And like you mentioned, the comparison with USD last year, I think that's pretty apt. And I think I'm intrigued to see if Shante gets the chance to redeem himself, because when you're doing this, when we expect this to happen and it happening in year 5, it's like you're reaching the point of where it's just been consistently dipping down, and you feel like the identity from year 1, where they were a very sparky offensive team that could bomb threes and really get into track meets with you. It's like, now what do you do? And like, what do you do? What have you done for me lately? What do you do now? And when I look at what are you going to do for me in the future in terms of this season, it's like, I can't expect a whole lot of anything, to be quite honest.
Now, the one thing I will say, looking at their schedule, they're going to at least have opportunities to figure things out. They're not going to be, unlike some lower tier, mid-major, low major teams who end up just with like the toughest possible schedule because it's payday. This is a schedule that, you know what, Portland could probably make look halfway decent. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, UC Davis, at Wyoming. Obviously, that will be a tough one. They do have Fullerton, Northern Colorado, St. Thomas, which we know we've mentioned actually is probably one of the tougher games on their schedule. Long Beach, at Stanford, Kent State. They're going to be back at Oregon in middle of December, and then UC Santa Barbara. Like, so they actually do have a little bit of like a ramp to get to at least try to figure some things out, to find a bit of a rhythm before they see the tougher teams in their non-conference schedule. I mean, the St. Thomas, Stanford, Santa Barbara, Aiden Mahaney's Santa Barbara squad, and Oregon. I mean, like those, like, I mean, you could probably just like hang the L's right now on those games.
We could have the Redeem team at Matthew Knight Arena in Eugene. Come on now.
That is true. We could indeed see that team, like a Portland team that can, because we know Oregon teams, and like they usually don't even wake up until about the middle of February. So like the middle of December might just be the right opportunity to catch the Ducks in hibernation mode. But I think this is going to be a tough year for Portland, and I don't like saying that because I like Shante. I want this Portland program to do well. It's like, this is just looking at what is left of this squad, and I hope they prove me wrong. I really do hope they prove me wrong, but this one it's going to take some time for, I think, this squad to really figure something out and maybe steal some wins toward the end of WCC play, because it does seem like that's always kind of like what happens with Portland. Is early on it looks bad, but toward the end they start to play a lot better with Shante. And again, like, that's the one thing, Shante's teams do get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, and I like Shante. I think he's one of the best personalities in terms of coaches in the whole WCC. And we didn't mention that, but they do have two non-D1 games that I would hope that they could take care of business of against Willamette and Lewis and Clark. So hopefully that. But there are some gettable games on the schedule. CSU Fullerton hasn't been good in a few seasons. You kind of looking to see if what the mix of UC Davis is going to be. Kent State in a similar fashion as well. So for me, it's like, how can you find those building blocks consistently? Because once you get into conference play, it's not a pretty start. Washington State, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, USF. Those are the opening 4 games for the Pilots, and I look at that, I'm like, oh dear, like somebody.
Oh, 4.
It's going to be send help pretty quick. So I understand the growing pains that this Portland team is going to go through. I understand kind of the plight that Shante Leggins and the fight that he has to go up and deal with in terms of where Portland stands within the NIL world, within the revenue share world, and kind of how everything, so to speak, with the facilities across the WCC. But like we mentioned, it's hard to find a path, and you don't really get that many excuses, because at some point the record is the record, and that you are what your record says you are.
Well, on that happy note about where,
come on, come on.
I mean, thinking about like this Portland team, I think we're like this team, they're 11th, 12th place team. They and Pepperdine are probably playing to stay out the cellar. And that's unfortunately, I think, what we're going to see from this team. So I'm not going to belabor or try to stretch this out for too long. Like, this is a team that's,
it is what it is. I'm in agreement with you. The 12th is the floor, 11th is the ceiling. Like you mentioned, we'll hope they prove us wrong, and we'll just have to wait and find out.